I'm still getting used to that. I like the noise though. Well, friends, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever you watch this or listening to us, or have you listening or watching us. Thank you for making the Sports and the World podcast a part of your day. I am Ladarius. Hope all of you are well and safe out there. And today, friends and future friends, we, trying to get the guest that like third time's always the charm. Remember, that's the theme of today's show. The third time. So like, don't give up, folks. It may take you a while to get there. The long way to get there, as long as you get there. And friends, I'm here to happy to have the amazing, the phenomenal Nicolette Rojo here on the Sports in the World podcast. And how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Darius, my friend. Thank you for having me on. And yes, there are times which I'm pretty solid. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. WWE wise, I don't know how they're doing, but we'll get
Yeah.
to that. but doing well and safe. So let's get into it. Being first time on the show, so some of the questions it may feel like it's just a get to know you phase for you and the listener. So for you, I know you're a big WWE fan. We're gonna definitely get to that. I know you. Yeah, you're good in the NFL. You're it's all sports, very well rounded. Like it keeps you on my toes stuff. And if you've seen some other episodes, sometimes I stay on my toes, sometimes I may fall back, but I get back up. Being 6'4" takes a little longer, but I get back up nonetheless. But so I guess we'll start on the NFL front. So who's your favorite teams or do you have a favorite teams or players or anything like that? Because I know some people have favorite teams and players, but where do you fall on?
Yeah, so shout out to this fan base. Shout out to Biggs, but Raider Nation all day, every day. You can laugh at it. Now we can call them the Las Vegas Seahawks as a secondary name. But yes, I root. Don't let the Sonics fool you. I am born and raised in LA. I just really love the city of Seattle, and I like the throwback, and which is also why I'm going for the Pacers and not OKC. But anyways, I am a big Raiders fan. Always have my whole life. I don't know what a Super Bowl win is, but maybe one day I will. But as far as favorite players, obviously, if we go on the Raiders, definitely Max Crosby. That's my guy. Love him. I do have a couple favorite non-Raiders players. Cam Jordan is probably one of the top. He's also, I've met him in person too. He's a really nice guy, just really down to earth. And he's very large. I'm also a really big, I'm a big Josh Allen fan. I'm very jealous that Buffalo has them, that the king and queen of Buffalo now. And obviously, and I'm a big receiver wise. Definitely love Jamar Chase. I think he's the best receiver in the league. And I'll have a little soft spot for the defensive side, as I talked about. Crosby, I really like. This is more recent, but Zach Braun. I love his story. I love Zach Braun's story, especially in the Eagles, which I will visit Philly in a couple weeks. So see y'all out there who's ever there. Yeah.
So be on the lookout for Nicolette in the city of brotherly love, folks. Be nice and kind. I'm gonna come down. But it's funny when you said the Las Vegas Seahawks, because I'm a WNBA fan, so I'm a Seattle Storm fan. I've been a fan for like 20, since the story is when because I'm a UConn fan, so it ties together where I said, well, wherever Sue Bird goes. So I think the year she was like a 2001, they won the national championship. So I said, wherever team she goes to, that's the team I rock with. And she went with Seattle. And then I always say to myself, I'm like, they should be called the Seattle Huskies or the UConn Storm, because it feels like her, Brianna Stewart, and then it's like that. I'm like, this roster looks. If this was like an all-time team, I'm like, well, like I feel like Gino could kind of coach this team. It's really no difference, but
yeah,
but I'm thinking about the Raiders. I think they're interesting. Getting Ashton Genty is very. I always say about getting one. I always say for a team like it made sense given what Pete Carroll likes to do. It doesn't surprise me because I felt like getting a receiver kind of that like Touch McMillan. I don't off the I'm like, well, that was gonna be the one team I said. Well, a couple other teams I said, well, if they get Ashton Genty, I'm like the offense is not terrible, but the game just wasn't there. Like you get a guy like Ashton Genty, you get a guy like Gino, and you can always figure out the core position. Gino's a solid guy, and then, like you said, it's basically like I've seen this roster before, and they were pretty good. Gino's not washed. So, and then Max probably one of the better defensive. I always feel like, oh, trade him. I'm like, yeah, what are you going to get for him? I always say when you try to trade big name players, I'm like, you're never going to get the equal value. It's like driving a Mercedes off the lot. It loses value.
Mm-hmm.
Traded, you're not going to get the same value for it because of mileage and things like that. So, and then the Cam, being the Falcons fan, I'll refrain from my Cam Jordan comments. I'll just say,
yes,
I'll defer to Matt Ryan, and however Matt Ryan felt about him, it's how I'll feel about him. However, like Cam Jordan's a great player. Don't get me wrong. Just didn't like seeing him in our backfield twice this season. It's like
valid.
It's like who's in the backfield? It's Cam Jordan. It's not. Yeah.
Valid. 28-3, and Cam Jordan can't avoid both. I get it.
No, I can't. And people try to say, "Oh, it's like," I'm like I tell people 23, you should get over that. No, I'm not. Like
no.
Like why? Well, I tell people, give me one good reason why I should. That's right.
I mean, the Falcons' Twitter account tweeted about it.
Exactly. It's like as a fan base, we're like, yeah, we get it. It's like, but we can say we've been to a Super Bowl in this, this century. Yes. We can say that. There are a lot of franchises. I'm not gonna say names who haven't. So I tell people I'll leave it up there. I'll let you guys Google and figure out the answer. So did we take the biggest L in Super Bowl history? Yes, we did. But we got there. So now staying in the NFL for a little bit. We talked about the Raiders, and you talked about Josh Allen, who, congrats to him and Haley Snow. Congrats to them. Like Josh Allen wins on and off the field. I'm not gonna get it's
yes. It's
like, I'm curious to get your thoughts on what I think about Josh Allen. I think of, I guess I'll put the question out there. And before we get there, I see some people in the chat here. So let's see, we got John saying, "What up, Ladarius? What's up, John? Thank you for tuning in today." And Sports PSP, thoughts on Stephon Diggs? There's a lot of thoughts. Yeah. I don't know if they're airworthy thoughts, but they're thoughts. but we'll circle back. We'll circle back to that question. And then I see one of my besties in here. We got Rachel saying, "Hey,
Rachel.
friend." Rachel, one of the best. I always say,
yes.
I tell her all the time, like what she does with Unwind and like how much of a game changer that is, especially for women in fantasy.
Yes.
Like she'll say no, and then I'll say no. You have a footprint in the fantasy football community because 1,000. Before Unwind, there wasn't that, and just bringing in, and I said it's so integral, and she does an amazing, an amazing job at it. So
1,000% agree.
So a little Rachel shout out love.
Yes, shout out to Rachel the GOAT and for getting me more entwined with fantasy football community and us, really connecting with us.
Yeah, hey, hey, look at us. Look at us. Look at us. Rachel, checks in the mail. I don't, or cash up in the mail. We'll figure it out. Something from a pecuniary perspective will be in the mail. So we'll figure it out. Because I won't to take the check. Now we were talking about with Josh Allen. I'm going to get your thoughts on Josh Allen and I guess the better question is, and I always ask this question about certain quarterbacks, certain players, especially quarterbacks of Josh Allen's caliber who had to have a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. How close do you feel Buffalo is, and how open do you feel the window is, given the structure of the team? How open of a window do you think Buffalo's Super Bowl chances? Because listen, the AFC East got maybe a little bit, I'm not going to say it's a slam they win because it's a little bit more competitive.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, on Buffalo, Josh Allen, and potentially their Super Bowl window.
Yeah, I think the Super Bowl window's still pretty wide open. They're still the dominant team of the East. Now, of course, the AFC East has definitely gotten better. I think the Jets, hot take, are going to be an interesting team to watch. I'm not saying they're going to overthrow anything, but I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch. You have the Patriots, who are young. There's not a lot of unknown there, going off Stephon Diggs for a bit, but they have a lot of hope. So, and then Dolphins. Dolphins are in a mess, but you you don't know what to do with the Dolphins. But I'm still not going to count them out. I'm still not going to, as long as everyone's healthy. You can't really count out Miami yet. It's just more of a let's wait till see how they get over the hump mid-season and take it from there. But going back to the Bills, I still think when you have Josh Allen and Sean McDermott, I know especially coming from Fox, there's always a conversation of offensive, defensive coaches, or offensive and then quarterback duo, offensive coach QB duo. And I agree the latter is the more ideal. However, he has shown, especially with Sean McDermott's presence in the locker room, you can tell that QB head coach connection is there. When Stephon Diggs, in my opinion, first left, there was that question, okay, wasn't really about Josh. It was more of, okay, what is McDermott and his 9/11 comments and a bunch of stuff. And then you see Diggs now, which I won't really get into right now, but you can say, okay, it's probably a little bit more. I still really like Buffalo's their line. You can't go wrong with James Cook. I like Dalton KK. I think this year he will actually make that catch this time, but I think this year he makes it this time. They were basically that and a couple of other couple of questionable play calls away from really advancing. And Buffalo's schedule is a little more for finishing really well / high. They have somewhat of a favorable schedule, so I think they're still in it in terms of it's more of a obviously you still got the Chiefs. Chiefs are still going to Chiefs. You still got the Ravens. The Bengals are kind of I'm not gonna say wild card, but there's some literally they could be. So I think it's still open. And hey, they already got one ring. Why not motivate him more? And sometimes it just takes, even if you go off field for a bit. He's been kicking butt on the field, but sometimes he's brought this up. Haley's brought this up in podcasts too, especially her interviews with Betches Media in the past. Sometimes it just takes a good partner or somebody as a good. You talk about the bad distractions. There's the good ones where they push you over, and that just needs him. And he just went sicko mode this season, and I think he's going to replicate that. He already got one ring. Let's go for the other one. You have to get past really the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs. There's a lot of hot takes out there saying the Chiefs won't make the play. I'm not going to go that far as a Raiders fan, but I think the Chiefs are a little more vulnerable. Still can't count them out, but I still think Buffalo. I'm not going to ready to say Buffalo's going to win outright, but I don't think their window is completely closed compared to other teams that were either in the playoffs or on the cusp because of injuries, roster changes, and so forth.
Yeah, you make a great point, and I want to go back to the coaching aspect because I agree. People make debate what to do about offense, defensive minded head coaches, and I always tell people where we saw for over 2 decades in New England, where Belichick, defensive guy, basically in a way just kind of said, you know what, Josh, you guys, and he was always the great defensive. To me, it's about the coaching itself because coach quarterback, no matter what the brand is. But like I said, if I had a choice, I'd say, if you get the right defensive minded coach, it works. And it's just a matter of having a coach and it works and everybody staying on the same page. And I think with Josh and Sean, there's something there. And to the point, the AFC to me has always been the tougher path to get to the Super Bowl. Always the tougher path. Like you mentioned, Kansas City. I'm not ready to be the person to say, "Hey, they're cooked," but we saw they're very susceptible in a couple of ways, and we kind of saw it in the Super Bowl, and we kind of saw it in the regular season. In fact, we got to understand it's like we were one clean snap away, like the Raiders could have beaten the Chiefs.
No.
It was a
Oh
clean.
my man. No.
Like I don't want to bring, I hate to be the to bring it up, but it was a lot of people watched the game, so
Yes.
was it Christmas too? Like Jesus.
Merry Christmas to Raider Nation.
Yeah,
Kermit.
hey,
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, here's this.
Thank you.
Just give me the cold next time. I don't need this.
Seriously.
It was, and it's like the way the Chiefs played. It's like I'm not ready to count them out, but I'm like even with their own division, it's like teams are catching up. Like the Chargers are kind of like Denver, especially Denver, loaded with Sean Payton. You got that Bo Nix, like. So the AFC is super loaded. And people saying, "Oh, what with the NFC?" I'm like, there's a handful of teams, and I tell people it's like, it's like go to the AFC. Listen, we haven't talked about Baltimore, and we haven't like Cincinnati. We don't know if that defense, if they can figure that part out, because to me, it feels like if they remind me of like the Big 12 conference back in the day, where it's like, especially like the Bob Stoop run teams, where it's like, yeah, like okay, we'll give up 60, yeah, we don't care, we're 40, okay, fine. It's like they were just trying to like the run and gun, like they didn't care. But in the NFL, it's a different ball game. You got to play some remnants of defense. I'm like, you don't have to be the '85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens, but just play defense. But to your point, it just feels like it's just a tougher path. Yeah. And I think for Buffalo, in fact, I argue, and speaking of when they mentioned Stephon Diggs, I hate listen, they got better without him. And it's like statistically speaking, they were better without him. And now poor New England, they're stuck with that, and then having to deal with him on a boat with Cardi B is like, and then people are like, oh, he should be an example. Then I saw the video with Cardi B. I'm like, listen, I'm not. I tell people, listen. I know. I listen. I know a trap play when I see it. I'm running the other way. But like I said, if New England, what I will say is this: before we transition, is that if New England, like Drake May is great, but if Stephon, like you mentioned something about with the distractions, if Stephon Diggs plays great, we won't be talking about him on that boat. But if he starts at the gate slow and doesn't kind of pick up, it's going to be on the Boston Herald. It's going to be on every Boston piece of publication. Sports media is that part of the country that like they love theirs. Like they get with the Celtics and all of that. So it's, I don't know. It's a tough business. And speaking of tough business, I want to squeeze in a little NBA because I love the Seattle Supersonics. I absolutely, we need to get them back. Like,
yes, totally agree.
If there was a city that I felt, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say a team was screwed out of their team. I'm like Seattle, and it just makes sense. Those great '90s teams, like what is it? Like Sean Kemp and like Detlef Schrempf. People like, you got to talk about Detlef Schrempf. Like a little Detlef Schrempf love. Dale Ellis, the shooter, and I remember David Wingate. Now now that's for the. I guess we can. Hey, how old is Ladarius? I think we got our answer. We got our somewhere after 1900. You'd be correct.
19. I thought it was 1800s, but no, I'm kidding. 1900s.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I was there, Liz. Let me tell you.
Back in those 1850s,
Let me tell you, trying to the basketball. Oh my God! Hey, maybe if we cut a hole in it, maybe the ball. I'm just saying. I'm just here, and then I threw a ball. Like, hey, yeah, is this a sport? Could be. Which one? I don't know. I mean, I have I found a stick on the way over here, so if I maybe, listen, after Doubleday, sure, or was it me? We don't know. Maybe I want my name back. Hey, listen, American history books. Then listen, we're not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna get into it, America.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We're not gonna get into America, but we'll be right back. Yeah. And then I see a couple of other. We got Jamie in here. Jamie, how are you? Good evening, Jamie. And we got Jamie. Let's see. It says, "Can we trade Diggs to the Falcons now?" Oh no, Jamie, don't. Jamie, because listen, if you're Terry Fontenot, if you're listening to that, don't you dare entertain it. Because we got Drake, we got Ray. Listen, we're good. Listen, we're good. Our receiving core is great.
Yes.
So, and then we got John jumping in. There was a rumor on Twitter that it was going to be upgrading at the deadline. I don't know. If they do, I wouldn't be upset about it. So, and then of course Rachel saying Jamie, all right. And speaking, we going around. I'm going to talk a little NBA. I want to talk about the whole Knicks situation. I'm very curious to get your thoughts. I'll lay out mine and then we'll go. It's being an NBA coach of all the major sports. It's a super tough job.
Yeah.
Because if I like this season alone, if you think about like Taylor Jenkins was fired from Memphis, they were in the playoff hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Thibodeau, listen, hey, we took our. It's a very tough business.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's one of those things. I'll say this and I'm curious to get your thoughts. I always say this: if you fire a guy, listen, Thibodeau could, maybe he's the coach that got him to the precipice, and maybe you need that guy. But you just can't get any old coach. If you fire Tom Thibodeau, you can't like I'm not disrespecting young NBA assistants because Phoenix hired one, so I'm not. But we're talking from New York, and you fire a guy like Thibodeau, you gotta. To me, I feel you gotta bring in a big name guy to kind of come in and push it over. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the Thibodeau situation. If you have potential coaching ideas, that'd be great. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on the whole situation.
Yeah. So when I first got the Shams tweet, I told our folks over at Fox, like, okay, hey, Tibbs is out. Let's kind of cover it and get onto it. And yeah, we ran with that. But I was surprised, but not surprised. Yes, I know he's put up 250 plus wins, took him to the first Eastern Conference Finals in basically almost my entire life. See, showing my age a little bit, but now it's my turn. But at the same time, it's the Knicks, it's James Dolan, and would I have personally done it? No, I would have given him definitely another couple of years. Do I think watching the Knicks throughout the playoffs, do I think there are questionable decisions that he's made? Yes, I think they rely too much on iso ball. I know this is not basketball talk, but a little. I'm a basketball geek, so I'm gonna have a little talk in the quick analysis. I think they rely too much on the iso ball. I think they rely too much on Karl Anthony Towns, which I do get that he was started hot, especially in the semifinals going to the East Conference Final. So I get it, but he's also notorious for not going through his bench. He did adjust that against the Pacers, though, so it's something that he normally doesn't. So that's good for a coach. And like you touched on with Darius, being an NBA coach, being a coach in basketball is already tough. Being at the NBA is even harder. You have all these meddling owners like a Dolan, and you have MSG. You have the number one biggest market all over. You're breathing down your neck. You got the brutal media. You already have. Let's face it, basketball's better when New York sports are good. So you have a lot of that pressure. I'm not one to judge the Knicks personally because I'm a Lakers fan, and we've done the exact same thing. We've done it with Frank Vogel. We did it with Darvin Ham, which, to be fair, the Darvin Ham move should not have been happening anyway. Should not have been a thing anyways. But in terms of head coaching candidates, I think this is when you're going to have to go for like a Mike Malone. Or a Budenholzer or something to that. You could go the Sam Cassell route if you want. I would say Coach Ott, but Suns just hired him. There's been, of course, and then go to college basketball Twitter, and I would say, oh, what about Dan Hurley and Jay Wright? I don't see either. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, then fantastic. But Dan Hurley just went through this nonsense with the Lakers. I don't know. I'm not saying he won't take an interview. Who wouldn't take an interview with the Knicks? But I don't think he leaves UConn. He went through the drama with the Lakers. He may be inclined maybe in the future, but I don't know if he would now. And the Jay Wright stuff has storybook Cinderella-esque it would be to reunite with Brunson and Bridges and so forth. I just do not really see that happening. He's retired. He's happily retired. I think if he'd be coaching, if he wanted to coach, he'd be coaching already. He'd be with Nova still. So I could be wrong. And plus, he'd have to travel more. He would have to do, yes, there's no NIL, but you're dealing with more players. And that's a third. His guys that he coached when they were young men, college kids. So that's still a fifth of the roster. There's just a lot more pressure, and he can handle it, both coaches, but I just don't see either of the two college coaches happening, even if he is running it back with the 3 Nova guys.
Yeah. And, if I had to to your point, if there was one I would say if, like I say, Jay Wright, I think it's the whole Dan Hurley thing. I tell people no thanks.
Yeah.
Because to me, and if you're first for the record, I'm a UConn women's bet, not a UConn men's. Like after Calhoun left, I'm like I jumped off board. You got Kevin Ollie won. I'm like, that's great. After that, you got Dan Hurley. But anyway, people are like, oh, Dan Hurley won national like, yeah, well, so does Jay Wright. But here's the difference. People, I think, look harder at Jay Wright, given how I think the way he coaches, it would make sense. But to your point, if he was coaching, he's the type of guy that he could find a job like that.
Yes.
I think especially in college, like when the Indiana job opened, like if they're not if Jay Wright's not taking that call, Jay Wright's good. And it's it's an 82 game schedule, and that's constant traveling, sometimes every night, every other night in some cases. He's good. He's good. But it's not about money. It's just he's good. For Dan Hurley, the problem I always have is his temperament. You can pull that stuff in stores. You can't pull that in New York City.
No way.
You simply can't catch attitudes. It doesn't matter if it's superfluous whether you're right or wrong. You just don't. His personality, and for LA to be interested was kind of yeah. And I think LA kind of maybe that to me was an interesting situation. And I think, like I say, I think JJ Redick I still feel is the right guy for the job for now. I think they went, people said, the whole trend of being have coaching experience. I'm like, if you know ball, the whole Steve Nash thing probably scared people off for the Nets. Like, oh, we're not gonna hire a guy who's never coaching experience. But like I said, going back to the whole Dan Hurley situation, if there was any college, I always tell people this: by using the Jay Wright logic, we could also use the Tom Izzo logic. Tom Izzo coached some guys that are like the Draymond Greens, and he definitely said no thanks. And we've seen that the college to head coach. Listen, being we discussed, being a basketball coach is tough. Yeah. And John Beelan, good dude, went from West Virginia, went to Cleveland, and it ate him up. And it doesn't mean he's a terrible coach. It's the NBA is just a different beast. And we've seen dudes with simple we've seen coaches fired for, hey, a winning record just doesn't do it anymore. You got to do more. And Thibodeau learned that lesson. We've seen coaches learn that lesson. And I don't know if I'm the Knicks, I would call Mike. I would make that call. Who holds it? And and I heard the name Jeff Van Gundy being. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm like, oh well, he regretted leaving. Yeah, because it's the Knicks job, and you left it. You weren't fired. You just left. And it's oh, listen. Respectfully, he's done a great job as assistant. With the Clippers, they were a top 5 defensive team, and he had a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
just stick with that. It's like I say, my first 2 calls would be to Mike Malone, to Mike Boo, get a coach with championship experience. Yeah. And I think if anything, it's just having a different voice. Because in basketball, everybody out with the outliers, like the Eric Spoelstras, before Greg Popovich, stepped down, those were 2 dudes where it's you could coach 10, 15 seasons and not lose the locker room. And I felt like in today's NBA, just seeing coaches fired for whatever reason, and I'll say this before I transition, and if you're a Bucks fan, you can turn away. The fact that Glenn Doc Rivers still employed, like
Mm-hmm.
respectfully, I tell people, hey, oh yeah, he won a championship. Okay, you know what? I always tell people this. You know what? 3-6 Mafia has an Oscar. Okay, and I tell people, what have they done since?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like if we want to go down, like, oh, they have an award. Yeah, Doc has a championship. 3-6 Mafia has an Oscar, and name another Oscar-winning film they were asked to score again. Case rested. It's like with Doc Rivers. It's like I'm not saying you should have stayed in broadcasting, but like the money's better with the headset. And it's like,
Yeah.
and the team got worse. I'm like, I understand what. Like I say, sports is always amazing. Like the guy, like Thibodeau's a good dude. I understand, but the fact that Doc Rivers still is employed.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the whole 2008 argument, yeah, you also have 3 Hall of Famers and plus more. So a lot of coaches can win with that.
Yeah, exactly. And people I'm like, if you can't win with, like, and plus people like it wasn't a dynasty, folks. Like you, Garnett, Pierce, and Allen, they weren't running it back for 5 more years. Like, what are we doing? Like soon after, Paul Pierce somewhere, they're in the Nets, and they broke it up, and but like for Doc, like, oh well, Doc, it's like Doc Rivers. It's a funny situation. I tell people this: whoever the Knicks hire, if it's not Mike Malone, somebody with a championship caliber resume. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Knicks fan, and I just always look at it like this: if you fire a guy who got you close to a couple of games away from a NBA Finals, and you fire that guy, you got to find a guy who's actually wanted, whose resume has to be clean and absolutely flawless. And that's what makes me believe that, given the ties that Mike Malone has to New York, like his dad was a assistant, and he's from that, makes, if you don't get him, because with Budenholzer, people may back away from his time in Phoenix, but that Phoenix situation is just I don't know who
bench. Yeah, they were so toxic. That was just
I don't know who. I don't know if any coach could.
No,
there was nothing. And then, like, because the whole Kevin, they tried something. Let's try Booker and Beal, and it didn't work. And I'm like, I'm not putting it all on Budenholzer, but like I say, the NBA is what it is.
Yeah.
And speaking of with a transition, speaking of people losing their job, listen, we're a positive show. Like, to be clear, go back and listen to their episodes. Like, so. Oh no, let's see. I see Jamie said, "Oh, the digs for Cousins."
Oh no,
stop, Jamie.
Hey,
listen, Jamie. I want Cousins out of town too, but then you're gonna give us Stephon Diggs, and you gotta call Atlanta. In Atlanta, oh man.
Diggs in Atlanta. I mean, great content, but
yeah, all great stuff. And I told somebody this. It's when the free agent quarterbacks and when Russell Wilson was available. Oh, go get Russ. I said it's not going to work. I said I shut it down. People were like, what do you mean? Now I said I had to put context. Sierra's ex future's in Atlanta. Do you imagine how many times mask off going to be played in that stadium? Like, no, poor Russ. The snap count's gonna go against him, and he's at home. He's gonna be delay a game because he can't. He's not gonna be able to hear the cadence or anything.
Blue 40, mask off, mask off.
You see the crowd going like, oh. And they're wearing Russell masks. I'm like, listen, that's why it wouldn't have worked. Like, I'd have been okay. I'd have been okay with Russ, but when the free agent, we needed the quarterback, I said, I think Russ is on that borderline Hall of Fame conversation. I think he's a great quarterback. Atlanta,
Yeah.
listen, not here. Anywhere else, great. I'm glad he went to New York. I'm like, folks, I said context matters. It's like, imagine 8-9 home games a year. This man in Mercedes-Benz can't get a snap off. We think, oh, he sucks. No, because you got Future buying off the 50-yard line and above just with his, just giving out free tickets. Yeah, great for the stadium, great for the economy, great for the economy of Georgia. But is it great for Russell? And then what's worse, Sierra's going to probably be there in a box, in the box up there looking at this. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, I tell people, it's like context always matters. Jeez. Would I like to see it? Oh, absolutely. Like, listen, that little part of me would have said, I'll go to Atlanta just to see it. I'll take some time off. I'm in Florida. I'll take some time off. Where you going? I got to go see something real quick. I'll be back in a couple hours. I got to see something.
Yes, I got some business to take care of down south.
Yeah, exactly. It's a business. I'll bring a briefcase to make sure to let people know that it's business. And probably it'll just be a bunch of snacks, and then it's gonna be nothing. It'll just probably be snacks and coupons to get snacks. So like, oh, nope. So we got John with the repeat from earlier, and then Craig, my buddy Craig, my wise man Craig here. Hello, what? Hello to you, leader of the. You stop that, Craig. I am not. Stop it.
Becky Hogan.
Stop it. You know what? I'll go for that tangent later. That's a later conversation, Craig. Stick around, Craig. They always tell me, because I'm a huge Becky Lynch fan. I'm like,
I like Becky Lynch.
I'll get into it because people have said some things. I'm like, look, it's like, folks, what we're not going to do. I'm like, I'm sorry. Did Charlotte Flair not exist? I'm like, so I just be like, listen, different, like, listen, I don't hear Charlotte Hogan. The name sounds great, but Becky Hogan. Anyway.
Becky Hogan.
Let's see. John says, I'll trade cousins for a pack of Oreos and Dr. Pepper. Come on, guys. Listen, Dr. Pepper's not good enough. A Shasta. Don't touch Dr. Pepper under no circumstances. Listen.
Dr. Pepper.
And Oreos, no, we gotta get more generic stuff. I'm not giving up no Oreos and Dr. Pepper. That goes with a very healthy, somewhat lunch. That's not a that's some Oreos and a Dr. Pepper. Yeah. That's healthy. My doctor says no, but I say yes. So
it's a lunch of champions. You can't get rid of that for cousins.
I mean, like, hello, Doc. Dr. Pepper has, it has stuff in it. It has 23 flavors. One of them's got to be good. So there you go. At least half tops. Like, at least 10's got to be good. They don't throw junk in there. It wouldn't sell. Like Coca-Cola was actually full of the stuff. Like, until somebody said, hey, maybe if we take that off, we can still sell it. Not as good, but it's still around. Like, what if we sprinkle some of that? Like, yeah. So anyway, that's the news, folks. That's your local health report. The sports in the world. That's your health report. Me and Nicolette making sure that you guys are safe and eating well. So
yes, wellness is key.
Grab yourself two packs of Oreos. You guys have been great too. Don't do one Dr. Pepper, 23 flavors might get to you if you haven't drunk it before. Now, getting the train back on the tracks. I don't know where we went, but we got there. Let's shift to WWE because once again, I always encounter people, and I guess in the fantasy football community, I have no idea who are wrestling fans, and it seems like it's the little niche, like a little niche of people. Who, like, I have no idea because I'm like, I've been a wrestling fan since, I'll just say, over 20 years. And it's like, so I've been in that. I watched during the bad years and like good or worse, but it's like a marriage. It's like a marriage. Like, wait, if I got really married, I'm like, I don't know if I can survive this. I don't know. You watch wrestling how long? That's not the point of the conversation. But so with WWE, a lot of things going on. Some good, some bad, depending who you talk to. We'll start. I guess we'll start with the good. But I feel like the bad's going to be more than the good. But anyway,
yeah.
listen, folks. Listen, if you want someone to blame, there's Nick Khan and there's Paul Levesque. That's not us. Like that's we're just saying what they did allegedly or didn't do. Oh, it has nothing to do with it. Listen, we don't run that side of the business.
Yeah.
But we have worlds collide because WWE signed with AAA. A lot of great matches there.
Mm-hmm.
Money in the Bank is going to be in LA. I think you said you're going to be there. I think.
Yes, I will be. So the interesting thing, real quick, about Money in the Bank is you have Into It, and then Worlds Collides at the famous Forum. Yes, the same Forum where the Lakers were Showtime Lakers before my time, but yes, that same Forum. And then right in the middle, in between, you have a building called Cosm, which is, for those who know, it's Cosm's basically like the experience like you see in Vegas. It's kind of like the Sphere, very much augmented reality right in front of your face. You make it feel like if you're watching basketball, you're probably going to get dunked on by LeBron. If you're watching football, you're probably going to get sacked by Cam Jordan. If you're watching WWE, you're probably going to get turnbuckled by, I don't know, Tiffany Stratton or somebody. You probably get smacked by somebody. But I will be at the latter just because the prices, and that's another story, because TKO, gosh darn it, keeps raising up those insane prices. And yes, my pocket could, thankfully, I'm blessed that he could keep up with it, but I'm not. I talked to my dad, it's because it's his birthday weekend, and he was like, there's no way we're paying $600 for nosebleeds, non-resale, for Money in the Bank. A little cheaper now, this was a week ago, but still, so we will be at the Cosm building, and yes, that technically kind of counts, but yes, I will be there.
It counts in my book. It counts. It counts. Like 2 points is 2 points, where you dunk it, you shoot it, or whatever. It all counts. Because listen, them prices, look. Like, listen, like, could you afford? Sure. But I'm like, it's like, and like, listen, and I don't want to be, chopped by Gunther either. I didn't I see what he did to McAfee, like me. I'm like, Jesus. Yeah. Like he do it to me. I'm like, I'm just walking the street. Hey, Gunther, like I'm just showing up, watching the experience. I'm eating some nachos, and this guy knocks my nachos out. And then I say, hey, is there a match on the card for one more? Yeah. Who's your Gunther? These are my nachos. I take it personally. I know you're going to win the match, but I need to show. Listen, I'm trying to show that I'm brave here. Right? So just I get a couple of shots in, and you get your stuff in, and then we all go home. Deal? Okay. No handshake means a handshake. Great. Exactly. Are you okay, sir? Where am I? Oh my god.
Am I in Austria? Where am I at?
Wait. Like, is this Istanbul? How'd I get to Turkey? Wait a minute. He cleared a whole continent? Like, all right. Wait, why is this? Why do I see the oh no. He knocked me. Oh god, this is not good.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I told him, Greenland tops. I don't know where Greenland I can see, I could see, some of Alaska. I don't see anything. No. Folks, this is going to show you don't bully people who, no bully. I just go like this. If you see Gunther, just go the other way. Could be a nice guy, but yeah. But we'll put it that way.
Yes.
And let's see. We have Jamie jumping in. I happen to have. Oh, come on.
Oh, let's go. Oh, a deal's being done. Let's go.
Hey, listen. I'm not saying we're doctors, but hey, I think, sound medical advice. Listen, you can get it. Listen, you can get it from worse places. I'm just saying. I'm not going to tell you from where because for legal reasons, but you know where. I'm like, there's sites that end in. Forget it. I'll end mine in EDU and maybe. Nope, but the other one has Gov on it. Listen, I can't speak for that. I was reading Garfield. Now, let's see, we got Craig. I kid in there. Yeah. He always kids with me. Like, listen, Becky Hogan. Yeah. I actually I'm waiting for my back in Best for Business shirt should be coming tomorrow. I ordered that in a Seth Rollins shirt because listen, Becky Lynch is always best for business. Always best for business.
Yes.
So, but once again, folks, you can write that down. Something you learned today. You come on the show. We're talking to Nicolette. We're learning about her. We're learning about health. Listen. You're welcome. And then let's see. And he says, for real though, I need both of your briefcase winner predictions for Saturday. I have LA Knight, please, and Rhea. That is interesting.
Mm.
So because I like to put the pressure on other people. Because I just realized I have to go get snacks. No, I'm curious. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Like, who do you think? I have a stronger opinion on the women's one than I do. Respectfully, the men's one, it could be anybody. Because to me
Yeah.
personally, I really wanted Karrion Kross in this. I really did.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what guy you had to get, but I felt that I'm like, anyway, we're not gonna get into America. We'll save another day. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on, who you like for the men's and the women's, and you could have multiple, or you could have one, and just curious to get your thoughts on that.
I think for the men's is tricky. I'm leaning towards. I mean, I do like the LA Knight pick. I think he is due, but I have a feeling the betting, because I'm also looking at betting favorites for the heck of it. But of course, Seth Rollins is going to be the obvious favorite. That's pretty much everywhere. But I can see if it's written in typical fashion, which it probably is, it's probably going to be him. But I could actually see LA Knight winning it as well for the men's, or I think Penta might have kind of a dark horse chance. You just don't. Although what would be funny, the Americano would be kind of funny for the content, but I think that's a toss up. Andrade, that's gonna be an interesting one, but I definitely could see like probably LA Knight or Penta in my opinion. Although I think it's anybody's game for sure. Women's, that one I would probably. I'm a Rhea Ripley fan, so of course I want to see her win. Do I think she wins? No, I know Naomi is the favorite, betting wise, minus 300. But I could see probably either. I'm leaning towards either Naomi, honestly, winning it. It's just an easy bet, or even probably, I think with half the contestants coming up or from NXT, I could possibly see a Roxanne Perez like push. She was very close she made it to top 4 basically. I'm pretty much wrong. Top 4, top 5, yeah, top 4 for Royal Rumble. I think she's gonna get that push. I'm very happy. Julia's fantastic, and Stephanie McCoy is my queen. But I don't see that would be surprising, but I don't see them winning just yet. Although if I had to pick, it probably Stephanie. Stephanie would get that little edge. But for long story short, because I'm going off tangent, but men's, I'm gonna go with probably Penta, and then for women's, I'm gonna go with Roxanne Perez.
I like that. Listen, the theme of the show, we always get off the track, and we always get back on. The track's not going to move. Yeah. We may move. The track's not going to move. You're like, the track's like, are you going to ride or not? No, we're almost there. We're a little off track right now. We'll get there. We're not going anywhere. We're good. And, to me, oh man, like I said, like respectfully, the men's one doesn't really excite me. And it's like,
yeah,
in most years, I'd say, oh man, there's like 3 or, but it's like, I look at the field and the obvious one, because like I said, I'm a Seth Rollins guy.
Yep, me too. I forgot to wear my shirt, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, but
it's so obvious.
I would not be upset at LA Knight or Penta.
Yeah.
I would not, because the way they kind of building Penta, he was the Iron Man of the Royal Rumble, and he did great in the Intercontinental title match, WrestleMania, and I'm like, that would be one that would be interesting, and it would make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like I would rock with either LA Knight or Penta. I'd go El Penta. Yeah, I think like. I like Seth, but I think there's something bigger for Seth. Yeah. And I don't like, it's not that he's not, to me, been one of the best workers the last decade. It's just that I don't see the benefit of him winning Money in the Bank and just like cashing in. No, I feel like if he were to win, he would get a match, like he would get another legit match against whoever, like Jey Uso, whoever again. So I would go with you. I would say Penta. Now the women's, to me, is down to 3.
Yeah.
It's either Rhea, Roxanne, or Naomi.
Yep.
Because you can go different ways. And to me, Naomi feels like the favorite. Like, to me, like she's the favorite. And I've seen the lines, and I'm like, it's like, I get it. And it's like, it makes sense for her, given the storyline she's in, like to have that and then be the champion, potentially challenging, maybe a Tiffany Stratton or Cassie and whoever. But the thing with Rhea is interesting. Because with Rhea, there's more, I kind of feel like there's it would make sense to me, because we don't, I always say this, I look at the title pictures on both Raw and SmackDown, and I go, well, when I look at the Raw side of things, I look at Io Sky, and I go, who's going to face Io next? And I go for SmackDown, I go, well, who's Tiffany Stratton going to face? And to me, I feel there's a clear path for, potentially maybe for Raw than it is SmackDown. And so I start, and then I go to Roxanne. And there's a reason why she's the prodigy. There's a reason why she's arguably one of the great, and folks, like, given how young she is, and I feel like if you're calling her up the way that they multiple time NXT Women's Champion, she was an NXT Tag Champion, at some point she's gonna compete for a belt. Having her with that briefcase, and now that she's intertwined kind of with something with the Judgment Day in and out situation, like there's like beef, like there's beef in the streets with her and Liv. Like there's something there that's going to happen. That match is going to happen at some point. And I say, and in that regard, to me, then I start eliminating, and I go, well, maybe with Rhea, maybe they're saving Rhea for something else, hypothetically. So I'm down to Naomi and Roxanne. And I go, and I lean a bit toward Naomi. And it's not just because she's the favorite, because to me, the gap is a little bit closer to what the line is said it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just feel that when you have her have the briefcase, and I feel that you have her carry that around, and that could be something where she could try to cash in, and potentially Jade screws her out of the out of the cash in. And to me, in my wicked theory, I don't count Bianca Belair. I think Bianca Belair, and I say this all the time, I think Bianca Belair still had something to do with that situation with Jade. I stand with that. Too. And it's like, because it's just too clean. Oh yeah, Naomi did it. I'm like, no, because it's like, how more. like respectfully, I'm not downing Naomi's strength or anything like that, but how would Naomi knock down Jade? That you would hear Naomi, if you're tall like Jade, that you wouldn't see it coming from Bianca.
Yeah,
because as I said that night, Bianca walked in with Jade, and we didn't see Jade walk out with Naomi because there was a triple threat match. I think it was for the United States. I think that night, and on SmackDown, and then all of a sudden they showed the footage of Jade, makeup and all, somehow looking fantastic on the hood, on the hood of that car. I'm like, man, I get knocked out. It's gonna be like Law and Order, gonna be like black and blue.
Same. I need her makeup routine.
Right. It's like, can you just put something right there? Great. Like, what's am I leaning toward? This way? Okay.
Oh, gotta get to the good side. Gotta contour.
And I said to myself, I said, Bianca's the mastermind. I said, somehow Bianca's behind it, because she had heelish tendencies, and now they're trying to get her back into the. And I'm like, no. And that being said, I feel that putting it on Naomi, you create something. I think because she has the briefcase, and I think either Jade or even Bianca somehow screws her out of that briefcase or out of that
Mm-hmm.
championship sort of situation. And I think for Roxanne, it's not a knock on Roxanne because that field, it feels so, even we haven't talked about Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
And that's how deep this field is. Man, I I lean Naomi slightly over Roxanne. And like I said, that could easily change Friday. But as we're recording, as we're talking, and it'll be out there and be like, oh, well, you said it. Like, I know what I said. I lean toward Naomi because there's storyline aspects. And I think with Roxanne, there's storyline aspects there. But I think maybe she may contend for the women's intercontinental title after whatever's done with Lyra and Becky, because with the stipulation, if Lyra beats Becky, Becky can no longer challenge for the women's intercontinental title, and maybe Roxanne kind of low key sneaks up there and kind of be the next contender. Like I said, the women's it's so tough.
Yeah.
Like for the men's, I was like, can we imagine like having Solo with a briefcase? Will be interesting because then the promos, and I'm like, and I always say anytime Solo's in a video, it's like, and there's like comedy involved. It's like he wants to break so bad. I'm like, if anything, I would do it for the do it for the laughs. But if we're being like the men's feels not impressive, and it just surprises me that they went with El Grande Americano and not Karrion Kross.
Yeah,
because,
I was very shocked.
Because, like, no disrespect, I don't know who this El Grande Americano guy is. He looks familiar. The boots look familiar. But I'm like, I don't know who. Like, hey, just like didn't change boots. Like, all right. And I would have went with, like I said, if Karrion Kross was in it, I'd be more interested.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Like with the men's one, it's like I'm just not invested in it like in years past. I simply am not. And and speaking of like being invested, we talk about WWE, we got to talk about the releases. We've had, most recently we had R-Truth, and then we had Carlito, then we had like the whole string where we had Shayna Baszler, then we had all these, but to kind of focus on like R-Truth, and I'm going to get your thoughts. My thoughts are, I've always said this, like as much as R-Truth has been entertaining, he wasn't that bad of a wrestler either. Like I think people focus on the comedy, which he was great at the like listen, like when he challenged Paul Heyman and then he comes out the Women's Royal Rumble, and then Nia throws him over the top rope, and then he comes out like I don't think that's PG. Like he has so many classic moments, great like tag team. Like everybody in that company, and you could tell on Twitter or X how loved he was.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to him and to just how he meant to that locker room. And that I guess there was a policy. I guess there was a rule that they couldn't wear R-Truth shirts.
Oh,
the crowd did the R-Truth chants. Is like, you're not going to stop a crowd. You're not going to tell a crowd who paid Lord knows how much money to be there and tell them they can't cheer for R-Truth. R-Truth is R-Truth. We understand that business is a business. But so I'm curious to get your thoughts on R-Truth release. When we talk about Carlito's release or any other releases, I'm curious to get your thoughts on those and yeah, and just your generalized feelings.
Yeah, I mean Dom was wearing a Carlito shirt, but going off the R-Truth, that was surprising. I understand he's in his early 50s. He's been around for a hot minute. I get business is business, like you said, but letting go of not just a locker room guy, but someone who's so loved, and as you brought up, the poor amount of reactions from the roster on both Raw and SmackDown and so forth. It's one of that. It's essentially like getting rid of, trying to think like caliber of a football team, like getting rid of your guy or your girl, whoever, with the best aura, the locker room person who's more than just fighting. And he was a solid fighter. He wasn't just there for comedic relief. He just had a fight with John Cena. that's why what surprised me, I even more so. I know this is around the time when contracts are coming up, but he just had a big fight with Cena. So that's what kind of threw me off a bit. They're just not going to renew it. And even the Miz had a big post on IGN because obviously with Miz Truth and so forth. But I'm not a fan of it personally. I am an R-Truth fan, but I think there's non-negotiables. Like, yes, there's other ways to cut costs and stuff, but you can't get rid of someone. And he sells a lot of his shirts too. So if you want to look at it from an ROI business perspective, getting rid of someone who had a lot of merch sales doesn't help your case either. And obviously loyalty is kind of non-existent really in sports and entertainment these days, but especially if we go into the big four leagues, WNBA, even go into the WNBA a little bit, but especially with WWE. Yes, there's you can go to another one, you can go to AEW or TNT or so forth, but that's really, at least here, it's not the point. It's more of a WWE is looking sus right now, especially if you talk about all the cuts and then Carlito, okay, not that I condone it, but Carlito is not the same Carlito in terms of his role when he first started in his first round. I mean, they changed his song, which I know he requested, to be fair, but the song's different, kind of in and out, being there for Judgment Day, but then was just kind of there. So it's different. He's still a fan favorite, but it's not like you cut him from when he was in his prime. It was expected. And then you see all these random other clubs cutting a couple months ago, like the Braun Strowmans. You getting rid of Shayna Baszler. You're getting rid of Dakota Kai's. Karrion Kross's contract's coming up, and he hasn't had any talks yet. That's someone you also want to keep an eye on. And you're cutting all these folks, but you're also but like we talked about, having that policy of the R-Truth shirts, and going off the prices, doing all this, plus raising the prices for all these marquee events, even just for a simple Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, which has happened a lot since the merger, TKO. It's not a good look. You're trying to save cost efficiency and it's business-wise, but you're still charging a boatload for these events that were essentially big four WrestleMania, Backlash, SummerSlam prices for an average Monday Night Raw. And that's not knocking on Monday Night Raw. I love it. But come on. And that's what's really disappointing as a fan. And so, now, obviously, there's a lot of great up-and-coming talent from NXT, but you still got it. But there's ways, and I understand you can't fit so many wrestlers in between with the 2 hours and the 3 hours. Extending SmackDown to 3 hours, in my opinion, was solid when you have a good women's division, just really dominating that side on Friday nights. But yeah, kind of that's really what I'm feeling. It's disappointing. It's disappointing for the wrestlers. As a fan, it's disappointing. Seeing all these, then you see all these ridiculous prices. It's like, I get business, but what's going on here?
Yeah, and to your point, like about SmackDown, it's like people didn't like the three, but people are coming around because if like with the women's division and you're adding like Jordan Grace and like you have people interested, and that's what made it more shocking to me when I saw, like Dakota Kai was one that threw me completely off. It like all of them obviously threw me off, but like the Dakota Kai one was because, and I understand it's a very stacked women's division, but like Dakota Kai was someone who I kind of put in the picture of, winning like the women's Intercontinental title at some point, and it's like, well, that's gone, and Shayna Baszler, and like to your point with R-Truth, like people understand that ROI, like he generated a lot.
Yeah.
And I think and it was reported like that's why John Cena, that's why we saw John Cena and R-Truth at Saturday Night Main Event. Because like those two go way back.
Yeah.
And like I tell people, I remember when R-Truth competed against John Cena for the WWE Championship. It was like Capital Punishment. And people like, no, I tell people, look it up. Like there's a history with them. And then the fact he comes out there wearing John Cena merch, it's like and it's like I understand. Like I said, it's a business, and I 100% get it. But at some point where it just since this merger, it just feels like WWE's taking a hit.
Yeah.
And I think with R-Truth, I think it's starting to hit people more as a reality. It's like, man, like, because it affected people in that locker room. And you can see, like I said, you can see on social media, like it's like how much R-Truth meant to that locker room. And I get like but like he didn't look his like every like they didn't like. I always argue, like R-Truth's the type of guy where when he needed like in a pinch, you needed comedy, he was there. You didn't put him in a match. He was a guy you could put him in a situation, he'd make it work.
Yeah.
And like even like Braun Strowman would like it was reported he was fighting hurt a lot. And then I think he's supposed to have his own show that comes out. I'm like, I don't know how that show's gonna.
Yeah.
Like I'm Braun Strowman and this is the show. Like, what are you gonna do in the show? Like, he travels around and like does. I don't know.
Big SOB driving around. All right.
Right. I think it's like it's gonna be like Guy Fieri situation. He's gonna drive around in a red Corvette. I'm Braun Strowman. This is Braun Don. No, you can't say the that's Guy's thing. It's Braun's Big Meals on.
Braun's Big Meals. That big SOB burger. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I get that burger. Like, hey, yeah. You know what? I'll take that big SOB burger, medium rare. Yeah. I'll take some of them big SOB fries too. I assume they're curly because he's the biggest. he doesn't come up as a guy once. You know, I'm a crinkle cut guy, and I don't eat steak fries. Maybe I don't know, but
the seasoning and everything, the big SOB season. Little kick to it.
Oh yeah. If you're watching Braun's Big Meals, we got some big SOB season. Like, man, this guy's cooking. Like, literally,
let him cook.
Let him cook. Like, hey, you take this pound of beef. You guessed it, big SOB season. Braun, how much big SOB season do you have? I have a lot. I'm trying to sell it. I'm trying to wholesale it because I tried to go into a Walmart and put it in my. They said They said it's not. It says frowned upon.
Oh.
I tried to sell it out of my car. Like, oh, you're Braun Strowman. Like, hey, I'm trying to sell this big SOBC. I try to put it in gift baskets, but that keeps coming back. I'm like, Braun, we have like 5 things of these. Like, we don't. We're your friend and all, Braun. But let's see what we got in the. Let's go to the comments here. I think Worlds Collide would be a great show. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And so, and then it says, and my buddy Craig says, I'll be upset if Seth wins only because Seth has no need for it. Yeah, I think that's what you and I would like. Like, we're not saying Seth is easily the most, well accomplished guy in the whole match. It doesn't I don't see the benefit of him having the briefcase.
Yeah,
I think he's in it because you need to put somebody in there, I guess, to get people to watch. I think. I think people are like, I think everybody echoes the same feel. Like respectfully, the women's one. Listen, the women's one should close the show. Like, that's like the women's one should open. That closes the show. The women's one should, because the men's one you could put that on first of all, I care, because it's just not. Like, they're former champions in that, but like Seth is the headline guy. And Seth's not going to win. I hate to tell people that. If he wins, I don't see the benefit of him with the briefcase. So yeah, I agree with Craig, my wise man there. And then Craig, adds the, up with the money. Yeah, it always comes down from a very pecuniary perspective. And before we put a button on this, it's one of these things where, like, it's where when WWE, people complained about the prices, understandably. And then now we're getting rid of superstars, and people are telling me, oh, it's the bottom line, it's a business. Sure. But you can't sit there and tell me that a guy like R-Truth hasn't been making money for you for the last 2 decades. Like, I find that hard to believe, because if that was the case, y'all would have got rid of him at least 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Before the merger. It seems that before the merger, everybody looked great, but then now and people like, oh yeah, like contracts are expiring. Like to your point, Karrion Kross has a couple of months left on his. Carlito letting his contract. I think he has two. Like his contract is expiring. Everyone's basically letting the contract. But that's what happened with Sonya Deville, just letting the contract expire.
Mm.
And what I say about like the whole Shayna Baszler and Sonya, like with Shayna Baszler, and I'll say this, like Shayna Baszler was not given the opportunity to succeed and not put in the championship picture, because I won't say the guy's name, but a certain person felt that someone like her couldn't be a champion. But yet at NXT, she was a multiple time NXT Women's Champion. And you look at the side by side comparison of NXT Women's Champions and those who became champions on the main roster, it's like it's a pretty good percentage. And Shayna Baszler not being one of them was kind of shocking. And like the outlier was got a package here. There we go. Anyway, folks, we see everything now. But the outlier was kind of like Bianca Belair did win individual gold NXT, but yet she became this big. But for Shayna Baszler, it was shocking, and I just felt they pigeonholed her to a certain way where she's just a tag team champion, and though her tag team partners became like Nia Jax, for example, and it's like it's one of those situations where, like I say, it'll be a situation where like it's the recovery, it's the recovery aspect of it. Like, can they I'm sure they'll recover, but it's like getting rid of a guy like R-Truth really brought down the morale. And someone said kind of the same thing I echoed, like this is going to be a long-term thing in terms of the morale. Short-term, like from the physical aspect, great, but from the morale of that locker room, because now everyone's looking around each other like, oh, it could be me.
Yeah, who's
and
next?
like you look at
my next.
Yeah, like Karrion Kross, like even the Miz has to be up for question now, because if you got to get rid of a guy like R-Truth and get him and R-Truth, they were tag team champions, and the Miz is a Grand Slam champion, he could be on the chopping block, not because he's terrible, but because if you get rid of a guy just because of people say because it's their age, they get. And I always stress all the time, it's like when people talk about with Shayna Baszler's age, I'm like, well, listen. We have a different conversation about men and women, but it's like Shayna Baszler could still go.
Yeah.
Like Shayna Baszler, she could still go. It was just the issue of they never knew how to book her. And I've always said that. Her the one great thing she had from a singles point was her in the feud with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, and even on the microphone, it's like, who's better? Like, we're not going to get into that. But both weren't poised to be like, listen, respectfully, great in the ring. Like, more so Shayna. But, like, that was like the one bit. And then next thing but that was Ronda's way out of the company. But other than that, they haven't put her in anything. Then they throw in this Pure Fusion Collective, which just was, oh, man. It felt like a sequel to a movie that never should have happened. Like, I tell people, you choose the movie. Like, you could think of a movie. They were doing great with sequels, and then they made that one sequel. They went one movie too far. They went one movie too far, and it's like, okay, we should have stopped that. We should have stopped at 3. Some people went 4 and 5. And I think that's what Pure Fusion Club. They kind of went like, oh, we can build factions. I'm like, you just threw people together, and then having with Zoe Stark, I think Zoe Stark may be done, and it's not her fault. I think the injuries may be the downfall there.
I think she's next.
But so I don't know. We've been on here for. Is there anything else we should? Did we miss anything or?
Did we?
I don't know. I mean, we talked about people's health. I mean, we talked about
SOBs.
Like, hey, folks, listen. I'm not saying I'm saying for my buddy Braun. Wait, you go. Listen, I'll post down the 10% off link to get some big SOP seasoning. Listen, he sent it to my house, and I'm like, listen, this is not gonna work out.
No, man.
They put it in your eggs, and I'm like, what are you doing? Put it in everything that you do, man. Even like, listen, Braun, like, how much money did you put in this? Like, that's not important. I feel like we have a conversation about financial responsibility.
Nah, you're the SOB for questioning me about the money.
Yeah, I
So you
mean,
got this.
this shows could be on for like 5 seasons at least. 5? What do you know how television works?
We just talked about Pure Vision Collective.
Right,
What is that? 10 seconds ago.
like if this was like even like, hey, LeBron, they like you think Netflix shows can't be canceled? They can, like they're listen. Netflix says, hey, like yeah, at some point, like what the show could be great on Netflix. Yeah, what country? What, you're right. If you dub it in like Austrian or if you put in Austria, somewhere. Oh, is the Bronx? Yeah, okay, I get it. The people look at you, go like, yeah, you go over there and you'll be to Austria what David Hasselhoff is to Germany. I get it. Like over here, like okay, Baywatch was great, and Baywatch Nights. We're not going to talk about that, but let's send him over to Germany. Like big star, like he was like, I don't know how he got on this, but like he was singing on the Berlin Wall. Like that's like one of the biggest moments in not just American history, world. Hey, you want to know when the last got to perform on the Berlin Wall? Yeah, who? Yeah, the Hoff. Like, no, I'm calling him David Hasselhoff. I'm calling him what his mama called him, David Hasselhoff. David Aloysius Hasselhoff. That's he. Hey, I performed on the Berlin. I'm like, we couldn't find Al Capone's vault. There was nothing in there. But hey, you know what the takeaway was? I saw the Hoff perform on the Berlin Wall. I'm not going to ask which side. I don't even want to know. No, yeah. Just like so. Braun, if you're listening, hey, you may not be big here, but you take that bad boy to Europe. Hey, that big SOB, hey, that's that powder / liquid. I don't even know what it is. I'm afraid to ask what it is.
Yeah,
but you can sell that stuff wholesale over there, and oh man, yeah, I was on the cooking. Yeah, hey, I was cooking. Yeah, this Braun Strowman guy. Yeah, man, he'd be on a big Austrian show or something like that. It's gonna sell.
Yeah,
I don't know how much, but it's gonna sell. But let's see. Before we get out of here, let's see. Quick says, Doctor, don't you dare.
Yeah.
And this is the guy that will create that meme. And he will create it and be like, yeah, I'm a doctor. Yeah. Oreos and Dr. Pepper. Tell your doctor to find a way that's not a solution.
Yeah.
It could be contradictory, but he could say, oh, that's not a good. Can you name something better? Like, and also, Doc, just for coming here, here's a bottle and a packet of Big SOB seasoning.
Oh, that's the top.
You're welcome. And you put that on carrots, man. Carrots gonna be out of carrots gonna know what hit them. Carrots in their mind on business. Oh, what about dipping it? Nope. Big SOB seasoning. Bam, gone off the shelves. But before we get any more off the rails, which we've done plenty, which is good, great. Yeah. I'm looking at the numbers and people like we're off the rails. So we're on the rails. It's like, man, we're being serious. Like, let's go off the rails. People. Yeah. These are the people we bring in. So now we know the audience now. So there we go.
Okay. Yeah.
So Nicolette, I want to thank you so much for coming on here. I hope you had a great. Hope I didn't scare you off or anything.
No, thank you, Darius, for having me on. I had a blast. No, I had a blast. It was really, really fun.
And so before we get out of here, let all the amazing people know where they can find you, your work, your comings, the goings, the doings, and all of that.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call the platform, at nrojo5, same thing with IG. But I post a lot of. We'll be back in the fantasy football grind, writing and content wise. I'm still drafting, kind of doing what's up. Got my SBB invite, so FB invite. We're all in. We're all locked in. But I'm with IBT Media. B as in boy, and T as in I don't know. Terrific. And when I'm not, we're off season. So what I do off season, I'm a sociopath and wake up at 5-6 a.m. in the morning Pacific time and go watch some Formula One on Sundays. So I'm not a fan of gatekeeping, and because that's not cool, but we try to make money for people in states that actually can make illegally earn money or pay, whatever you want to call it, unlike my state. But again, no gatekeeping. So I do Formula One betting pieces. week, not want to say weekly, but race weeks, because they don't race every week these days. But those come out usually Wednesday, Thursday evenings around this time. Don't have one this week because we're off. Back on the track next week and continuing from there. Also check out my fantasy football columns once those are back, and I'm in the process of writing some NFL features. I haven't decided yet. Probably MVP because it's my favorite one to write about and talk about. And yeah, that's where you'll find me there, and just on Twitter, just kind of shooting the you-know-whats, talking about memes, complaining about WWE, and tweeting about Money in the Bank soon.
My takeaway was two things. Obviously, we're going to have you back on the show. That's number one.
Yay.
Number one, because the only sport we didn't talk about today was baseball. So if you came in for baseball content, hashtag my bad. Hashtag.
I do like baseball, so my team sucks. I'm an Angels fan, so we got screwed over by a home run that shouldn't have been a home run, but it's okay. Yeah. Thanks, gravity.
Hey, you heard that, Isaac Newton? You heard that? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you that apple? Terrible. Mm-hmm. Terrible. That's why I got a bowl full of oranges. You and your apples. Yeah. Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton? Yeah.
Sir.
I'd rather, listen. You know what? I'm going to need no more Fig Newtons. No, we're done. I didn't invent them. Listen, your name's on it. I did. Listen, I don't know how your name got on it. Listen, you know what will go great with Fig Newtons? Some big SOB seasoning. Put that in the blender, put a little liquid smoke in there. Hey, possibilities can happen. How's it going to taste like? I'm not trying it. No, that's for you guys to try out.
Who needs law of thermodynamics? We got the big SOB.
So next time we have to talk about baseball and fantasy, because I forgot. You know what? We're both in Scott Fish. So if you're listening, Scott Fish, I'm sorry. We'll bring up next time because when me and Nicolette, when she comes back on the show, I will write it down.
Yes.
On a piece of paper, which I hope to keep on the desk. There's no promises on that. Depending, if I'm having for lunch, it may be a sticky situation. So we'll talk. So have you back on. We'll talk baseball, fantasy, more WWE, and all of that going on in the world. That all around stuff, because you're an all around type of person. So, folks, friends and future friends, that's the Sports in the World podcast episode. Like, listen, subscribe to this episode and every episode. Sports in the World podcast, especially this one, because I gave great medical advice. So best outro ever. Until you see and hear me again next time, I'm with Chris. Be real, be blessed, and be safe for all of us here from the Sports and the World podcast.